Sorry. My name's Kelly Cashin, and I'm a junior at Peabody and a member of the Student Alumni Board. Welcome to After VU, where my Vanderbilt degree has taken me. Life is not a linear path, and here to talk about the different directions on their life roadmap are four interesting and successful alumni. Since graduating from Vanderbilt, each has made many choices and decisions to get them where they are today. They are here to offer real-world advice, as well as their perspective on how their VU degree has impacted their path. I want to introduce our panel of distinguished alumni. Bob Boniface is a 1987 psychology major and the current design director for the Chevrolet Volt and E-Flex systems at General Motors. Prior to GM, Bob was the chief at Chrysler's Advanced Products Studio, as well as the director of the architectural design of the minivan Stow and Go seating. Patrick Ilibaca graduated from Vanderbilt in 1997 with a degree in economics and Spanish literature. He later received his MBA from Owen in 2001. Patrick is now the vice president of event marketing and interactive media at Fox Pan American Sports. Prior to that, Patrick was the director of marketing and communications at Fox Sports International. Abby Larsen, a 2001 communications graduate, started off in public relations, first with a restaurant marketing firm, following a well-known hedge fund in investor relations. Abby soon ditched the idea of what a job should be and launched her own wedding invitation company, Abby Jean. 3 years later, Abby sold her invitation business to a larger company and launched the chic wedding blog, Style Me Pretty. In the last 2 years, Style Me Pretty has grown in large numbers, receiving recognition from Martha Stewart, Modern Bride, and the New York Post. Jeff Rothschild received his BA in psychology in 1997 and his master's degree in computer science in 1979. Jeff is currently the vice president of technology at Facebook, where he focuses on scalability and performance. Prior to Facebook, Jeff focused on storage management and internet services as an investor and entrepreneur. He is also a consulting partner with Excel Partners, and during his tenure has worked with Walmart.com, Rhapsody Networks, and Mendocino Software. Let's give our panel a round of applause to welcome them. We would like to give each of our panelists a chance to talk briefly about their path since graduation. So Bob, would you like to start us off?
Oh, I get to start off. Thank you. Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for coming out. Happy to be here with my distinguished fellow alums. You know, it's interesting when you're a student. It's difficult to have perspective on what you really want to do in life. I mean, there are those people, and we all know them, the ones that want to go to law school, the ones that want to go to med school. They have this predetermined career path. I was not one of those. I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I knew I liked cars, though, and I was telling Matt earlier, I think I did some of my best car designs in the backs of my econ notebooks here at Vanderbilt. So I think, you know, I wasn't the best student when I was here. I mean, I got by, I graduated, and actually that's the most important thing. I think a lot of people get too hung up on GPA, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I mean, I've been working outside of, after graduating, God, what is that, 22 years ago. Not once has anyone ever asked me what my grade point average was. But I don't want to encourage you to blow off classes and do poorly in your coursework. But anyway, enough about that. When I graduated Vanderbilt, I drifted a little bit. You know, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I decided to move to Boston, your hometown now. And this was in '87, right before the market crash. And I took an entry-level job with a mutual fund, and the market crashed, and then there weren't a whole lot of jobs after that. So I sort of did accounting work for a few mutual funds, not really being happy. But I kept thinking that in the back of my mind, I wanted to try my hand at automotive design because that was my real love. So I put together a portfolio of original car designs, and I sent them off to the College for Creative Studies in Detroit, which is one of the premier transportation design schools in the world. And lo and behold, they accepted me. So I sort of picked everything up, and I moved to Detroit, and the rest is history. But that's kind of a long story about how I got where I am. Is that good enough?
Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm very honored here as well. I never thought I'd be in this position, to be honest with you, after taking certain classes that really kicked my butt in this particular hallway or auditorium. But like Bob said, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. All I knew when I first got here, I wanted to be a doctor. Then after one semester, I decided that wasn't my thing. So I ended up taking economics and Spanish, which I always liked numbers, and my parents are from Santiago, Chile, so I wanted to reconnect with my roots. After graduating, I just went to Santiago, Chile, and just got to know my family better. Worked on my Spanish, thinking that would help me out someday. And by the way, I do suggest travel abroad. I read somewhere in the Hustler about the Maymester, and there's some sort of grant program. I really highly recommend that you guys take the opportunity while you're in college to travel. So I did that. I came back. I didn't know what to do. I decided to go back to school and to Owen, and reconnected with some old friends here and took some classes that I really had some interest in. And then I just wanted to get out. So I went to Barcelona for my second semester of my second year. I did not attend graduation of my class, and I already did it once with commencement in '97, so been there. I'd rather go somewhere else. Stay there for a while, learn about European economics and politics and just the way they are, and then came back, couldn't find a job, and went up to New Jersey to get a job with Johnson & Johnson. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it turned out to be the same day as September 11th, my final interview. So I went back home, hung out with my family, and then decided just to pack everything up in a U-Haul. Traveled west to LA. My sister was there, figured I'd just crash with her. And from there, I looked in January 2002, I'm sure some people here, or I guess on the panel, know those years were really bad and looking for a job. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was flipping out, and I ended up walking to UCLA, and I got lost, and ran into the executive director for the Southern California Tennis Association. I played tennis all my life, and he said, listen, we have, I can't help you out, but we have a storage facility in the back, pay you minimum wage plus $1, and you can do something. I was like, all right, sure, I'll do it. So I started cleaning the storage facility. I grabbed the new racket and grabbed some tennis shoes, some strings, and I was happy as could be with new tennis gear. And then I befriended the receptionist, and I think the whole story of all this is about networking. It's very important. I befriended the receptionist, and she said, hey, I'm retiring. You should apply for my job. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I just graduated from business school. I don't know if I want to be a receptionist. So I thought about it, and then I went back and I took the interview, and the executive director said, you're overqualified, why should I hire you? And luckily I did my homework, and I was an electronic commerce major here, and I used my SWOT analysis that they taught me in business school, and told them that the website of the Southern California Tennis Association was really bad, and I could do a better job, and this is why. And it turned out that the New York office wanted to have a revamping of all the sites, so they hired me as the receptionist / web developer. So I was like, great, all right, I'm in sports, I like it, I'm on a tennis court with tennis heads and play tennis, and it's great. So I went along and kept on going, and then I realized there was a tennis tournament there called the Mercedes-Benz Cup, and there was a list of sponsors going back to networking. And there was a sponsor called Fox Sports. Now, back when I first arrived to Los Angeles, my father called me up with one contact, and it was happened to be at Fox Sports. And I talked to him, and he basically said, there's no jobs here, good luck. And we hung up. And then I went to the director of marketing, asked her if she knew this. This gets long-winded, sorry. And turned out they knew the director or the vice president of marketing, and it turned out that his boss was the wife of the director of marketing for this particular tennis tournament. And I met them, and they hired me. It just turned out that they fired someone 3 days before they met me, and I became the manager for Latin American special events. and I created an award show called Premios Fox Sports. It's like the ESPYs, but it's in Spanish. It's for all of Latin America. And then as things developed, I got promoted and went on some other things. And then just recently, about a year and a half, they asked me to go to Miami to do Latin American business development while retaining the award show business type of thing. It's long-winded, but the point of the whole matter is, and I guess the takeaway point I want to say is, despite what we all come from and we have these pre-expected views of what we're going to become, at one point you need to just follow what you want to do, get into something that you think you want to get involved in, no matter what it may be. And then hopefully the relationships that you build will develop into something else, and don't think that any job, including cleaning warehouses, is not good enough for you despite your academic achievements or degree. So, and that's why I'm here now.
My name is Abby Larsen, and I write a wedding blog, which is completely random. And I graduated in 2001 with a degree in communications, and like the rest of the panel, I think my road to getting to where I am today was winded and didn't make a lot of sense. I moved out to San Francisco when I graduated and took a job working for a PR company in restaurant marketing, and I made $7 an hour. I couldn't pay my rent. But I had a lot of fun and learned a lot. From there, I went on to work as a secretary, answering telephones for a hedge fund. And then I got moved over to investor relations shortly thereafter, which kind of taught me that I really hate having a normal job. I hated working in an office. I hated getting up every morning at 5 o'clock and going and kind of doing the grind. So I just up and quit one day. And I was bored, kind of trying to kill time, so I designed a wedding invitation for a friend. And she happened to have it in her hands when she met with her wedding coordinator, who, by chance, also planned events for Oprah Winfrey. So she started asking me to design stuff for her, and I got to start designing stuff then for Oprah Winfrey, which was kind of amazing. And so I saw money, and I saw a career in this. So I started a little company called Abby Jean, and within, I guess it was about 3 years, I had about 150 kind of high-end accounts around the country, but it was really a stressful job working in products, and I didn't think I was cut out for kind of wholesale, behind-the-scenes work. I wanted to do something a little bit less stressful. So I sold that company and started this wedding blog. And I started the blog just kind of as a way to stay connected to the wedding industry and to figure out, what my next move was going to be. And within, I guess, like 3 months, the Martha Stewart Network noticed the blog and asked me to come to their show and be kind of a guest as one of 6 blogs that they were recognizing. So that kind of launched Style Me Pretty into a legitimate career, I guess. So I just really tried to find a way to make money from it. That was the bottom line. I wanted to figure out, I had found this industry that I loved, that I had a huge passion for, and I think that making money doing something you love is kind of like as good as it gets. So my goal, was to turn it into a real business. And I think within about a year, I'd figured out a good formula for making money. And I started writing the blog, and it got a really good following. And then I guess a year and a half later, my husband quit his job to work with me full time on it. So now it pays our mortgage and gives us a really happy, good life. So.
How do you do? I'm Jeff Rothschild. It's interesting listening to these stories because one of the fields I work in is venture investing, and what I've found is that so many of the most inspired companies are those that ended up doing something and succeeding at something entirely different from what they set out to do. And in many ways, I think that's the same with careers. You have to find what it is you love and what it is you really enjoy, and do that. And sometimes you don't know what that is when you start out. I had the misguided notion that I was going to be a psychologist, and I chose Vanderbilt because it had a great psych department. Luckily, it was also a great arts and sciences school where I could get exposed to a lot of different things. While I was working in psychology, I started thinking, maybe I want to do medicine. So I took a job at a local hospital just down the street here. It wasn't Vanderbilt Hospital, working in the pathology lab, taking blood from people and doing some testing. And one night the pathologist asked me to help her in an autopsy. And that closed out any thought I ever had of wanting to pursue a career in medicine. In fact, I was able to drop chemistry the next day with a clear conscience. But I still continued with the psychology and found that there was a lot of need to do information processing, statistical analysis as part of a lot of the research psychology that was going on at Vanderbilt. So I had taken a few computer science courses, so I decided, well, I'll take on that role. And in the process of doing that, I started to note that I was much more curious about how the computers worked and what happened after it read in that batch of cards. And I'm afraid I'm dating myself through that. But that actually caught my curiosity more than the particular subject matter of the research project, which was, do 5-year-old girls feel better about themselves after having watched Mary Tyler Moore or All in the Family? And after a few of these projects, I decided to take a few extra CS courses. And by the time I graduated, and I did graduate with a degree in psychology and linguistics, I decided to pursue a graduate education in computer science. And I left Vanderbilt doing something which I couldn't even have conceived of at the time that I had joined the school. So I think that one of the most valuable things that happened here was not being tracked in a single direction. I'm glad that there was no school of psychology from which once I entered it I was going to come out minted as a psychologist, but it gave me an opportunity to work in other areas. After leaving, so I took graduate program in computer science. I was actually in a PhD program. I will confess that I dropped out. So I petitioned to get a master's degree, and I got that. The reason I left was very simply I was impatient. I had completed all the coursework, so after that it was all going to be dissertation and teaching, and I was really interested in being an entrepreneur, and I saw all the companies that were being established in the personal computer space and the sort of a nascent space at that point. I wanted to be part of it, so I left with a master's degree, joined Honeywell for a few months, and then went over to Intel, worked there for about 2 years. Started my first company then, 3 years out of school, a venture-funded company, and left that for a couple reasons. Things weren't, I wasn't getting along with the other co-founder too well, and eventually he got tossed out, and I did come back and rejoin that firm about 6 years later. But in the meantime, I wrote some software on my own. I bought a PC, disassembled it, figured that knowledge would be really useful because this brand new machine, nobody knew how to work with it, so I commented my own copy of the operating system and figured there would be some utility in that, and there was, and was able to take on some consulting projects that others couldn't do, and licensed some software to a few companies and lived off of royalties for that for a few years. Moved to Europe, was a bum, sort of. I was working, but hardly working. I mean, in Europe, you get 3 weeks of vacation, plus you get the compensation for having worked 5 days a week when you should have worked 4. So I think it worked out to about 6-7 weeks of vacation a year, and that was fun for a few years. Anyway, came back to the U.S., rejoined with one of the other founders of this firm I'd started after leaving school. We reinvented that firm as a software company and took it from 110 people that it had at the time while it was a computer systems company, took it down to 5, rebuilt it from the ground up, and that became a very successful firm. So eventually we had 6,000 employees, was a Fortune 500 firm and part of the S&P 500 rather, and became one of the largest software companies in the world called Veritas Software. After Veritas, and once Veritas grew to a certain size, I found that what I could give to the firm was not unique, that I was doing a bunch of different jobs. I did sales, so I had sales for the Far East. I did marketing. I was responsible for, defining the products of the company. I also did engineering, and I wrote prototypes. And woke up one day and realized that I could hire someone who was better than me at almost any one of those jobs, and therefore I had the responsibility to do that. And so I did that, sort of worked my way out of the job, and realized that I really was best at starting things. So I went off and started another company in the internet gaming space. That was an interesting experience, a lot of fun. Actually, it was sort of carried along by the tide of sort of the euphoria of the late 90s. So it was a public company, close to $1 billion market cap, but it didn't deserve it. I mean, that was 1999, so it's not real money. And that firm is now part of a company called GameSpy that in the online gaming arena. After that, I rejoined the venture capital firm that had funded my two previous companies, and figured, well, I'll go into semi-retirement, just coach younger entrepreneurs, and in doing what I had done. My wife said, "Don't do another startup." She didn't want me working 100 hours a week, and that I got away with that for a few years, and coaching these teams for 6 weeks to 6 months, that type of engagement. We invested in a company called Facebook, two young guys out of Harvard. They were some of the most brilliant people I'd ever met, with a tremendous vision of what they thought the company could become. And I went home and said, well, dear, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this one, but still, it's their company, it's all right. 4 years later, after 100 hours a week for probably the last 3 of those 4 years, it's been a blast. Couldn't have had more fun. There's nothing more fun than building companies, and to do it with such a talented team, building a product that people are so passionate about, that's just a sort of a rare opportunity. So that's what's led me to what I'm doing today, in a sort of a circuitous route. But I began by saying that lots of companies follow that same route as well. When I look at portfolio companies at Excel, and I have a dual role as a venture investor, many of the most successful companies really made a pretty significant course correction during their development. And it's the people who are sort of married to proving that they were right, like the entrepreneur who said, I know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make it happen. They weren't necessarily as successful as the ones who kept their ears to the ground and said, hey, I was wrong about the way this market's developing. The opportunity looks a little bit different. Let's go ahead and react to that and see if we can be in a better place than if we had just stayed the course. And those were some of the most exciting companies in the portfolio, and it seems to me, listening to the panel here, some of the most interesting careers as well.
Well, thank you very much for sharing all of that. This program is meant to offer you all meaningful advice about the different places a Vanderbilt education can take you. So our aim is to make this time as interactive as possible. I'll start us off with a question, and then we'll open things up to a general Q&A. So the first question is, how have you used your degree or what you studied at Vanderbilt in your life today? Anyone can start.
Sounds like none of us are using our degrees. Well, I'll start, and then they can jump in. You use more than just what you learn, in your course load. Having that degree from a university as prestigious as Vanderbilt opens a lot of doors for you. Each of us drifted a little for a little while after we graduated, but at one point, someone recognized that you went to Vanderbilt University, and they treat you differently. I hate to say it, but they do. They treat you differently, and I think the relationships you bond and the socializing that you do at a university like this, you're with a lot of intelligent people. You learn critical thought skills that you might not learn somewhere else. Me personally, some of the other things I took away from this school, I'm one of these people, I always kept my eyes open. I was always aware of popular culture, and I always wanted to do something creative. And when I was here, is WRVU still here? You still have the radio station? I was a DJ for WRVU for 3 years.
I was as well.
You were? Hey.
I was station manager.
Oh, you were. We didn't like the station manager.
I was first to
okay,
DJ.
We'll discuss that later. But that was something that that I thought it was a creative pursuit that I really enjoyed, and it allowed me to be me. And you take that with you. That's one of those little things that sticks with you. And just walking around campus here, all the things that come into my mind about experiences that I had that were here that were formative things. You take the good with the bad. You take the bad experiences away too. And we were walking by Furman Hall earlier tonight with Lauren and Matt Wilson. I said, "Boy, Furman Hall." I said, "I remember." I got a D in Econ 100 in there, and I said, I remember it fondly. I learned a lot about it. I got a D, and I had to go to summer school and retake the class. It was a formative moment in my education. I don't recommend that you guys get D's in your classes, okay? But anyway, no, having a degree from Vanderbilt opens up a lot of doors for you, and just keep your eyes open. Do what you want to do in life, okay? Don't be forced into a role or a career that someone else has chosen for you, or that you choose because you think it's the right thing to do. And I think if there's nothing else you learned from the four people here, each of us went after something we liked, and we're happy doing what we're doing. And the VU degree helped us.
I think you said it very well. For me, my undergrad degree made me realize that I wasn't cut out for medicine, and pursue something more to my strength, which was language and economics, and it forced me to embrace a life of more of international travel and international types of viewpoints. And my business degree got me a job as a receptionist, so which then led me to Fox Sports and able to. But without that, I don't think I would have been able to do or be able to lead the path that I led. I joke with it, but it's true. It's kind of crazy how certain decisions you make, somehow deep down you end up grabbing something that helped you out to convince someone or to meet someone that led you somewhere that you want to be. You can't really explain it. It just kind of happens. So the important thing is, like Bob said, is to just find something you really like. And I know Abby said the same thing, and find something you like, pursue it, and just put a lot of love into it, and believe in yourself. And it's always nice to, now that we have a winning football team, to be a Vanderbilt Commodore in the Southeast, because I know we get rain, especially in Miami, and I get the UM and the Florida fans all over my butt.
Actually, I used my degree in pretty much every step that I took in one way or another. Whether, I worked in PR, writing, learning how to communicate effectively with clients. In investor relations, I did kind of the same thing, putting public speaking classes, which is, I swear, the only class I got an A in at Vanderbilt. The only one. But I put it to good use. And then writing. So I think that, your degree doesn't define where you go, but it certainly kind of can help guide you in the right direction. When you marry that, again, with something that you love, it usually works out pretty well.
Yeah, I would sort of separate the undergraduate from graduate work I did here. Obviously, the graduate work was invaluable for the the career in technology, and I felt that what I got out of that was fundamentally better than many of the peers that I met in industry after leaving school. So I think that direct value from the education. Undergraduate, I studied psychology. I did a lot of linguistics though as well. And one of the linguistics professors, who's I'm sure no longer here, Wolberga von Rothler-Engel, she challenged me on one of the papers I was writing. She said, don't just do a paper for this class. Write a paper for the world. Do something that's going to get published. And as an undergraduate, and she said, you can do work that could be, succeed in a refereed journal. Go for it. And I took that challenge, and I got the paper into a refereed journal, and I spoke at an international conference in linguistics. And I came out of that not with the interest in becoming, an academic linguist, but certainly with a lot of self-confidence and a thought that if you really, set a goal for yourself, you can do it. That was invaluable, because you carry that forward and you simply apply the same model to the next thing you're doing. I had a history professor my freshman year who didn't like my use of the English language. He felt that I possibly could write better than I did. And so he failed me, at least on a couple papers. And He then passed passed to me a clipping on a review from a book by someone also named Rothschild. And she said, well, she's got the same last name as you. She can write a book. Why can't you? Well, that really sort of, that got my back to the wall. I mean, I was going to have to do it. And I did manage to, write to his standards from that point forwards. And even though this was a history course, it really mattered, how I'd use the language. And I am absolutely convinced that I can write today because, I was so humiliated by the history professor. So, those are sort of the things that are sort of not directly applicable, but they can make a real difference later on. I would say that there are some things that I didn't do that I wish I had done, that, where I can look back and say, I can sort of almost count, the value if I had studied this as opposed to maybe only taking those psych classes. So I didn't study anything in the area of business. I knew nothing about capital markets or venture finance or any of those spaces. And I made a few mistakes in my first ventures where I would have negotiated things differently. I would have structured deals differently. That I kept thinking, don't be so single focused. I should have spread out a little bit, taken a few courses out that I wasn't necessarily interested in, but could have learned from.
We're going to open it up to the floor for any other questions if anyone has one.
Can you shed a little light on how
First job.
I got my first job through the door-to-door little alumni connection. I just randomly started emailing anyone that lived in San Francisco that went to Vanderbilt, introduced myself, sent my resume, and I think, we mentioned before that connections play a big role, I think, in your first, second, third jobs. And for me, it was that, someone from Vanderbilt knew someone that worked or that owned a PR firm in San Francisco, and, I went in for an interview once I got out there. So it was really just networking through alumni.
That first job is important, but I can almost assure you that first job will not be your chosen career. It's more just to keep you busy until you figure out what you want to do. That's at least how it was for me. We used to hear in college, they say, okay, this is how you write a cover letter, this is how you assemble a resume, and you want to send it out, right after Christmas so that the potential employers are going to hire you at this time. I never got a job or even a response letter doing any of that, so I just moved to the city where I wanted to live, and I just got a headhunter, actually, and I was rewarded for that with $15,000 a year, my first job. So, the first job is important. It's the first time when you get to network with people. You get to be self-sufficient. You get an apartment, you do this and that, you pay the rent, you pay the utility bills. But I'll tell you, if you don't have a chosen career path, I don't think that first job is going to be the one that's it. But it's still very important. I don't know. Maybe you guys agree or disagree.
I agree. I mean, I knew I wanted to go back to Chile and get to know my family and extended family best. So when I made that decision as a freshman, I just called up every year my cousins and my family and saying, hey, you know anyone hiring? And it turned out that I got a job for a real estate development company, being a marketing coordinator, and I just wanted to go to Chile, and I just found a way to get there. I didn't care what the job was, and then my first job out of business school, unfortunately, the circumstances of bigger power kind of dictated the economic and just general environment of this country, and I just had to bear down and just get a random job in an area that I wanted to be in, which was sports. So from there, once you start meeting, again, I go back to what I originally said, it's all about the networking and how you develop relationships starting now. And then your first job, you keep on just willing to have that extra, cup of coffee with someone randomly, or reconnecting with an old friend, or even listening to your parents. It's like, hey, talk to this friend of mine. You should never say no to anyone that's that has an ability to open any door. You never know if you may like it or not.
In times of like uncertainty and not knowing where your career was going, how were you able to reassure like your parents and yourself about where your career was going?
I'll take that one. My parents wanted me to go into medicine. Maybe because I'm Jewish, that's that's sort of in the family. Like, well, it's either going to be a violinist or a doctor. It's one of those two. So that was sort of the expectation. And my family also had a family business. So my dad did the work that his father had done, and it was they had a pretty good company going. So there was also that thought, well, you can take this family business. And so I think the reassuring part came when I said, I don't want to go into one of those professions. I'm not going to learn to play the violin. I'm not going to, I can't do medicine. I tried it. I did the autopsy. I went home. I'm not going to go near this again. But I really enjoy this computer stuff. And they were very skeptical. And I said, look, this is what I enjoy. And you got to do what's fun, because every day you wake up and you're going to do something, and it might as well be something that you're curious about, that you have, that stimulates you. And if it isn't, you're not going to do well at it anyway. And my parents supported that, but they were skeptical. They said, "Oh yeah, right. Got to do what you enjoy." But they're thinking, "Well, I couldn't have gone into med school." So I don't think they ever quite believed it. But a few companies later, they said, "Okay, I guess that made sense." So it worked out.
I think that's what Jeff said is very, very well spoken. Reassuring your parents, that's a very difficult thing to do. And, like I said, I've had my share of bad grades and career drift over the years. And, I'm a parent now, and I don't want to see my children drift like that. But, sometimes you have to. You have to keep your eye on what you want to do, what's going to make you happy, because ultimately you're going to be doing that probably for the rest of your working life. And all you can do to them is reassure them that you're in control. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to do the best I can at it, because parents are always going to be critical. That's a parent's job, unfortunately, for better or for worse. It's going to happen, and it's one of the most difficult things during your college experience, is trying to assure them that their investment in you is going to pay off. But just keep your eye on the prize.
I think a lot of college graduates have the option of taking a job kind of for love or for money. And if you take a job for love, like I did, PR, I thought, wow, how great, I'm going to be representing restaurants, get free food, like it's awesome. But I paid $7 an hour. So I then got a job on the weekends to supplement it. And that helped. I think my parents saw that, I was reaching towards a goal, but I was being a little bit practical and realistic about it. So balance, I guess, is key.
I don't know what else to say other than that, but I understand in times of uncertainty. I was in a brand new city in Los Angeles. The world was crashing literally around us, and I was going nuts. I was going to Beverly Hills library reading because I wanted to be a diplomat. My uncle's a diplomat for the Chilean government. I was like, I like his stories. I like going around, doing whatever I want in a country. Sure. So I just went into different types of things and read about things I wanted to do, and then just turned out that this tennis thing came out. And I think to reassure your parents, that's always difficult. I'm probably the only one in this panel that doesn't have a child, and I don't know how it feels to have that unconditional love towards something that depends on you for a lot of things. So I don't know how to reassure my parents other than to tell them that I'm doing my best, and I know what I want, even though you may not know what you want. But just calm them down that eventually everything will pass. This is all cyclical. Maybe this is going to be a lower dip than usual, but it's all cyclical, and we'll all be back and having fun again. And luckily, hopefully for us, this is going to be the worst, but we'll see. But I don't know how to reassure my parents. I just told them that at one day it'll be fine. Just trust me. I got to Vanderbilt, right? So.
Yeah, I'll just add one cute story to that. most of my problem was that my parents didn't understand what I was doing with computers. So after I built my first product that I was out selling, I sent my father a copy of the program. And of course, that arrived on a floppy disk. And he calls me up and says, "I just don't get it. I can buy these things 10 for $3 down at the drugstore. You know, why is yours any different?" So it wasn't that they didn't want me to go off in this direction. They just didn't understand what that direction was.
You know, getting your parents to understand what you do is difficult too. You know, he said, my father, I come from a family of doctors too, so the path of least resistance, if I had the grades to do it, would have been to become someone in the medical field. So I said to my father, who's actually into cars, I mean, he collects cars, and I said, I want to be a car designer. So I went to design school, I graduated, got my first job with Chrysler. He says, so what do you do at work? I said, well, we design cars. Yeah, but what do you do? I said, well, we sketch the cars and we build models of them and put them out on the road. Yeah, but what do you do? And this is a guy who still doesn't understand it, but he's happy and he's proud that I'm doing something that I love. And I think as a parent, your parents will be happy if you do what you like and you are happy doing what you like, not necessarily what they wanted you to do.
From your personal experience, can you say something on networking do's and don'ts?
Networking do's and don'ts. Ask for business cards. Put them in your Outlook or put them in your iPhone or whatever contraptions now that you guys are using. So I'm sure it's different from what I'm using. Let's see, do's. Follow up. When you send an email, you call them every once in a while. Remember birthdays. And you haven't met someone, if you haven't talked to someone in a while, their birthday is a great way of saying, "Happy birthday, how you been? Hope everything's well." And they go, "Oh, I can't believe you remember, you're so great." And you're like, "Yeah, thank you," you know. And then you call them up, "How you doing?" And they say, "What's going on with your life?" You know things are going on, and it's you know, everyone has a birthday every day, so you can do that almost every single day. Don'ts. I don't know. I mean, don'ts. Don't get too drunk at places, unless you're at Kegs at Owen on Thursdays. Let's see. Don'ts. Help me out, guys. Don'ts.
No don'ts.
Don't be a suck up. Okay, I tell you what, that's the biggest turnoff to me when people. It's obvious when someone's trying to get something from you. If someone's just having a natural conversation with you, it's great. They're a lot more of an impressive person to talk to. But if it's obvious they're trying to get something from you, try to get you to give them a job, those are the emails I don't respond to. Yeah, don't be pushy. Be friendly, be humorous, be memorable, but don't be pushy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think do be brave, though. You know, always have the courage to email somebody or call somebody or walk up to somebody at a cocktail party and introduce yourself. I think that's how it all gets started.
Good one.
And another one, I'm one thing that, and I was talking to a gentleman earlier from the Alumni Association. One thing that when you leave Vanderbilt, they always ask you for the Vanderbilt fund. And when you start out, you really don't have a lot of funds for yourself, let alone to give back to Vanderbilt. So I always gave back my time. And when anyone from undergrad or Owen would send me an email saying, "Hey, I heard you're doing this, and that. Do you have any time?" I always write back saying, "Yes, of course, call me at this time, and we'll talk about it." So use the database that the Alumni Association has, or that any types of, if you're in a fraternity or sorority, or you're in the business, any type of organization that you may be involved in, you know, tap into the database or the list of alumni there and just say, "Hey, I'm doing this. You know, how was your Vanderbilt experience? Blah, blah, blah." And you just tap into resources that are literally at your fingertips now.
We're going to take one more question, and then if there's any other further questions, they can be asked in the reception after this. So, did you?
One thanks more for Jeff or Abby.
Being aware of why you're successful. A lot of people will achieve success but never quite understand why it happened, and therefore then it's difficult for them to continue that success. They might attribute it to their having the Midas touch. And I can't tell you the number of entrepreneurs who I've seen who didn't understand that the reason their company succeeded was not because they were special in some way, but because they happened to do something particularly well that lined up with market forces or a shift that was taking place at that time. And so if you understand why something's working or why something isn't working, then you can iterate. Another part of it would be don't do too much at once. Do something that works, okay? But something small, and then build on it. No one's smart enough to figure out the future, at least predictably. And one of the mistakes people make when they're going into something is they design it all from day one. And which of us haven't in any endeavor have looked back, looked 3 months in the past and said, I can't believe that I knew so little. I can't believe I was that dumb. Well, we all have felt that way on occasion, so why do the work when you're that dumb? Wait until the future and do it. So do what you can do now that you're really sure about, and then try to build on top of it, and you'll figure it out as you go along. You'll be working from a position of much greater knowledge downstream. So that would be one piece of advice for somebody who was launching a business as an entrepreneur. Identify one customer or one set of customers for whom there's an absolute clear need, and they would recognize that what you're delivering is meeting their needs. So let's moving that away from, let's say, the online space, and just say products in general. So if you're going to build a widget, and you could build a spec for all the things a widget has to do to meet all the needs for this market segment and that market segment and that market segment, well, you're never going to finish. Figure out that there's some group that is underserved, that nobody's paying attention to, that they actually wish a salesman would come and call on them, and build something for them so that they will identify that you did it for them, that you understood that, hey, this market exists and I'm targeting you. And they'll be receptive to it, and succeed there before you try to fill every niche. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I think for me, I saw weddings was just a very tidy little niche, but I also saw that there was, a lot of people covering weddings really poorly. So I just decided to try to do it better, and it worked. And I also tried really hard to think outside the box a little bit when coming up with a business plan. Most companies have very kind of confined ways of generating revenue and making money. I really thought outside the box with how can I serve, or find a really good place in the market, deliver great content, and still make money. And I came up with this kind of high-end vendor directory, and it's a paid advertisement section, but it's all very exclusive, and every vendor is hand-picked. So that was something that no one else was doing. So it allowed me to generate money enough to grow the site then and start competing with some of the bigger sites. So for me, it was kind of finding a niche, keeping it really focused, and then coming up with a little bit more interesting business plan.
I just want to say thank you to all our distinguished panelists today who have given us a great outlook on being an alum, as well as interesting things we can do after graduation. Let's give them a round of applause as we let them head out to the lobby. Y'all can head out so we can